Welcome to Elemental Fun, a historical and cultural look of the elements of the periodic table. Hello, and welcome to Elemental Fun. My name is Grace.
My name is Cindy.
And we are going to talk today about the rest of the Halogen group.
Halogen, salt producing. That's
Yes.
what it means.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was like, holla.
Holla, yo. No, holla back, girl.
Mm.
No.
Dang.
No.
So
They like to produce salt.
We're going to talk
That's what they
today about bromine, acetine, iodine, and just for
A
kicks
brief
and
second.
giggles.
Tennessean. Yeah.
The one that
Okay.
no one knows or cares about.
Because it's barely a thing.
It's barely a thing.
It's true.
So we're just going to throw that one in at the end and be like, by the way, boom.
This is what we found out about this guy.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Not much. There's really not much.
Yeah, it's I think it's Tennyson.
Hmm.
Or Tennessee. I don't know. Potato.
Yeah. I mean, it basically depends on if you're British or not.
Oh.
Well, because in the United States, if it's I-N-E, of the E, you have the bossy E, the E makes the I say its name, so it'd be Tennessine.
Oh, right.
Like we say iodine.
Oh, right, yeah.
But we don't say bromine. We say bromine.
English is very tricky.
It's a whole...
Explaining to a 6-year-old is...
It's a whole smorgasbord of...
I do not envy English teachers teaching English to
Oh
young
my
children.
gosh.
Like, well, yes, it's this, but except for that time, and over here it does
half
this.
of the time, the rules I teach in second grade, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it kind of applies sometimes, not always. And they're like, what is that? Why? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Because we're a smorgasbord of Germanic and Latin and Greek, and
Exactly.
someone just went cherry picking when they made our language. And
Like, I like this one,
oh,
and that one,
and
this one.
yeah, they're just fun times. But
Yep.
this isn't a podcast about the English language because
That would be terrible.
that was me pretending to vomit.
Blech.
Instead, it's about elements. So
Elements. Bromine. Let's start with bromine.
let's start with bromine. Bromine's pretty cool.
It was discovered in 1826 by Antoine Jérôme Ballard in Montpellier, France.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
also 1 year later by Karl Lovig, a student in Heidelberg, Germany. So
Well, actually, he discovered it first. I got that he discovered it. He brought it to his professor. His professor was like,
you
cool,
should make more of it.
get more samples. And so he's like,
Right.
okay, I'll go get more
Okay.
samples. And then,
It was kind of the same time because
Yeah.
he did that, tried to get it, and then when he did that, Antoine published his results. So I
Right.
think Antoine still found it first. and
he is
just-
considered the founder.
Yeah. So it was kind of
You
sucky
can understand
for
why
Karl.
Germany, it was mad at France for a long time.
Seriously, you just stole our element.
Yeah, such a, vital one. That,
Well, they both found it basically from water.
yeah.
Karl took water from his natural spring by his house.
Jaw.
Yeah. Antoine took it from seawater. So when you the concentrated residue, the brine from seawater, and then I love how they figured these things out. He's like, I've got this evaporated brine. I'm going to pass chlorine gas through it. Just fun.
Kicks and giggles.
Woohoo! So he did that,
Might
and then
kill me, might not. I don't know.
right, poisonous gas, green poisonous gas. Just good times.
I
So
love scientists.
he's like, this will be fun.
They're funny.
So they, when he did that, he liberated an orange-red liquid, and that's what he just thought
I
was
like that
in the
you called it liberated. He's like, I am free.
I liberated you from your
I
confines.
am bromine.
And so
I'm pretty sure there's a hero movie that goes something like that, where they free like a villain from not Transformers in the ice.
Oh,
Decepticon was in the ice,
he's in
and
the
they
ice,
like freed him from the ice.
Not on purpose.
Same. Well, he didn't purposefully free bromine. He didn't know it was there.
Well, he was obviously trying to do something.
I think it was just a guy that'd be like, it's a Saturday afternoon and I don't have a girlfriend, so
Do it.
I have this poisonous gas.
He actually suggested the name Muria or muride from Muria, which means brine. because it came from brine.
Boring.
But apparently nobody liked that. So then the actual name bromine came from the Greek bromos, which means stench, because it stinks to high heaven,
Yes, it
like
does.
chlorine. A sharp smell. Deep red, oily liquid with a sharp smell.
I thought maybe it's called bromine because of the whole women's hysteria thing, but we'll get to that later.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh, goodness.
There's
This is some crazy
there's
stuff
some
here.
culture in bromine.
Ooh,
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's really cool, one of the special things about bromine is that it's the only nonmetal to exist as a liquid at room temperature.
Yes, I found that too.
And bromine and mercury are the only ones that are liquid at room temperature and pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Also, isn't it like you can get it from seaweed, and the green
Yes.
seaweed produces the iodine, and the red seaweed produces the bromine.
Mhm.
That's what I got.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I don't know about the red and the green, but I'm sure you're right.
I know I'm
I
right.
just know that you do get a lot from seaweed, and we'll talk more about it, especially with iodine, because that's where most of the seaweed comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But they use it's used in a lot of different things: agricultural chemicals, dyestuffs, insecticides, pharmaceuticals, chemical intermediates. But some of these uses are being phased out for environmental concerns, because we'll talk later about how bad bromine is.
Yes.
But new uses are still being found. Use it in flame retardants.
Mhm.
They add to furniture foam, the plastic casings for electronics, probably like phones, textiles. It makes them less flammable. But again, a lot of this has been phased out in the U.S. due to toxicity concerns.
Yeah, a lot of mine, it's like compound used in flame retardants. It says phased out, too toxic. Halogen fire extinguishers in museums and airplanes and tanks.
Those are still the organobromides.
They're still
Those
used.
are still used, because the Halogen
Agricultural-
fire ones are different.
Agricultural chemical, it says phased out, environmental reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, we used it a lot, and then we're like, oh, this isn't so
This is not
good
really
for the
good.
environment.
They use silver bromide was used in photography.
Yes, so was silver iodine.
Mm-hmm. And then I didn't know
was
this.
used in leaded
In,
fuels.
yeah, in leaded fuels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they used it to prepare 1,2-dibromoethane, which is an anti-knock agent. So I think they needed that when it was leaded because of the knocking of the fuel. I forgot exactly what knocking is.
Knock on fuel. Not
Knock knock. Who's there? Fuel.
Fuel who?
Fuel your car. I don't know.
That wasn't good. I'm just kidding.
I was trying to tell my son, and he tells me a joke, and I make a fake laugh, and he's like, "That was a fake laugh, Mommy." I'm like, "Well, because it wasn't funny." And he's like, "Well, I don't want you to fake laugh." I'm like, "Okay, well, then I won't laugh." And he's like, "Okay."
Aw.
And I'm like, "Well, I'm either not going to laugh or do a fake laugh. I don't know, which one would you rather?"
Well,
Unless
then
it's
you
actually
just
funny.
go, oh, that was clever. That's what
Which
teachers do.
Which I do sometimes too.
You know, or you go, oh, that's a good one.
Good one. See, but he'd catch that too. He'd catch the tone in the voice.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
well,
so too
it works
on
with
it.
students. You can only laugh so many times at second grade jokes.
Yeah. So I also found that it actually they use it in coal-fired power plants because it reduces the mercury emissions by up to 90%. So it oxidizes the mercury, and then it makes it basically makes that oxidation makes it easier for the control systems to pull the mercury out. That was interesting.
Well, fun fact, they used a bromine compound to dye the robes of the Roman emperors because it's a nice purple.
Oh yeah, it came from
mollusk.
selected sea mussels. Expensive.
Also, yeah, so hence why only the
They're very
emperors
rich.
wore it. And there's a big thing in history about purple and how purple's the color of royalty, because purple is not a common it is a common color in nature, but to dye something purple is harder, because usually if you take something that's purple and you dye it, you get a dye out of it, it's usually more of a blue.
Right.
And so to get a really rich purple, it was really just saved for royalty. And that's, you know, why a lot of times you see in cartoons and movies and the royalties wearing purple.
Makes sense.
Because it is considered a royal
hard to
color.
get,
No one
right.
else was really allowed to use it, but they also couldn't get it.
Right.
Because it was so rare.
Right.
But
That makes sense.
another weird fun fact. You know the ocean is making some type of bromine?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
It was the first element to be extracted from seawater, actually.
ooh.
Mm-hmm. But it's now only economically viable in the Dead Sea because the Dead Sea is so concentrated
Right.
with salty stuff.
Yeah.
It's like 0.5% rich in bromide, which is apparently very rich
Very
compared to other sea waters.
Yeah, but so the bromine that is like being made in the ocean is the same kind that's used as a fire retardant, but it's not exactly the same compound.
Mm.
It has like a the 14th power C. I read it in a book and I was like, I don't know what that means. But
Powerful.
They found it in whale blubber.
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh no, like our pollution has gotten this bad." But they're like, "No, it's not the same kind of bromine that is in the fire retardant. It is, but it's a little different. So something in the ocean is making it, and we don't know what."
Well, what's interesting is the atmosphere. So there's bromine is very harmful to the atmosphere. It's
so
40
bad.
40 to 100 times more destructive to the ozone than chlorine atoms, and up to half of the ozone loss over Antarctica is due to reactions involving bromine.
Yes.
But and the biggest one is like methyl bromide, which is a fumigant apparently. However, 30% of the bromine in the atmosphere is from humans, but the rest is all natural.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it needs the sun for the reactions, so that's why the ozone layer goes away more in the summer, and then almost the hole stops growing, or either goes really slow or stops growing in the winter because the sun is less.
Yeah. So my note says we thought chlorofluorocarbons were bad, CFCs.
Yep.
Which you can learn more about in our episode on fluorine.
Mm-hmm.
But it says bromine atoms are 50 times worse. They're also, I believe, smaller, and so they travel up into the stratosphere, into that higher stratosphere.
Oh, they go up higher, yeah.
And so
Cause issues.
Yeah, but regardless, we're still using methyl bromide to kill pests in the soil. But a lot of those don't go up into the atmosphere because they're eaten by the bacteria in the soil.
Right.
And so it's not like floating up into the sky.
Right. It's not becoming gaseous.
Yes. So.
So there's everybody has a little bit of bromide in them.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, bromide, if the IDE ending means that's the ion form, so it's
right.
lost.
It's a safer form, right?
Right. Yeah.
Safer.
So yeah, because we have bromide in all living things, but bromine has an irritating effect on the eyes and throat and produces painful sores when in contact with the skin. It can be absorbed in the body via contaminated water, food, breathing it in, and through the skin, and it can damage your liver, kidney, lungs, stomach, and can cause cancer. So bromine's not so good.
Awesome.
But bromide, a litlittle bit, is okay.
Do we know the purpose of it in our bodies? Don't care?
No, I think it's just when we have it. We don't. I've never heard of anything in my biology classes that have explained anything like that.
Do you want to talk more about environment, or should I go culture?
Well, we get it from electrolysis of those brine-rich deposits, and USA, Israel, and China are the big ones. Going on the environmental part of the ozone layer thing. Right. That's my last little bit.
Yeah.
And NOAA reported the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, in 2016, bromine and other ozone-depleting gases were actually being reduced in the atmosphere. Oh. Which is good, right?
Yeah.
So it means that what we're trying to make this bad stuff less is working. So it's suggesting, the research that they did is that we're going to reach the 1980 levels. That's the kind of benchmark that they put, because it was increasing. Reaching the 1980 levels between 2040 and 2050 in the mid-latitudes, and by 2070 over Antarctica. So,
do they know why it's going down?
Because we're trying to put less bad stuff into the air. So we're seeing some good signs. I mean, it's still going to be a while before there's...
This is if we still have a planet by 2070.
This is true.
I'm actually really concerned we won't
going in the right direction, so that's good. But I think that's all I have on the biology of it.
Oh my goodness.
So let's talk about culture.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First off, there was a bromo seltzer used. It was popular and mentioned a lot in the hard drinking American literature of kind of the 1930s. So in A Streetcar Named Desire, Blanche DeVoe says, "Sometime today I got to get a bromo." So it was in a lot of medications. It was a sedative.
Oh,
also,
because it was toxic.
yeah, pretty much.
All right.
But oh goodness, I got to read from the book because I could not believe this. So
this is the Periodic Tales book. Okay.
this is the Periodic Tales book. The book. Well, okay, so in the mid late 1800s, men were trying to basically stop women from having sexual desires.
Oh, right.
And they called it hysteria.
Oh.
When women
wanted to have sex.
Basically.
Okay.
And they believed that, I mean, a lot of male psychologists and scientists were trying to use they used electric shock therapy to try to keep women from being hysterical, which basically meant that they had a sex drive and that they had emotions. And so there's a lot of stuff around that. But in 1857, Sir Charles Lowcock, ironic name, he was a physician. He attended Queen Victoria at the birth of all 9 of her children. He had heard that epileptic, oh wow, that was a word, patients treated with bromide also experienced a reduced libido. And he decided to try it on women suffering from hysterical, air quotes, disorders.
Okay.
So he the opinion of the time was that epilepsy was linked to masturbation and other excessive sexual excitation.
Oh my.
So therefore he reasoned that since women appear to be their most disturbed during menstruation, the bromide treatment might also be an effective way to suppress the lustful desires that were supposedly troubling them. So while men kept trying to fix women because they were broken, one of the ways they tried was with bromide. Like, here, let me sedate you.
Right.
So that you won't have these lustful desires.
Didn't they want to have sex with the women, and they wouldn't if they didn't have libido?
Well, they Seems kind of backwards. Anyway,
well, that's true.
I mean, do we really want to go into that?
No.
Okay. In fact, it was so. There was actually a term that came up called sulfites and bromides. So bromides were considered people that were boring, and sulfites were presumably people who, by contrast, brought a certain pungency to the table.
Oh, well, that's kind of funny because sulfur's pungent, but so is bromide.
Yeah, but it's boring and sedative.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gillette Burgess, he was a American humorist and wrote a book in 1907 called "Are You a Bromide?"
Oh.
So I kind of want to find that book and read it.
Are you boring?
Are you boring? Also, there is a clock tower in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, called the Florentine Bromo Seltzer Tower. It stands in the city. Its 12 positions on the clock face spell out the name of the drug, and here's a picture of it. So there, bromide has its own clock tower. Booyah!
Okay,
take that, society.
Oh, so it's just the drug.
Yeah.
The brand persists, although the product no longer contains any bromine, while the tower has been converted into writer studios, where a new generation can nurse their hangovers.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
interesting.
So yeah.
Well, it's kind of like
keeping the woman down since 1857.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like put these things in medications, or whatever, and then find out they're terrible. Like Coca-Cola actually had Coke in it. Mm-hmm. So, and they're like, oh, wait, maybe that's not so good.
But it makes everyone so energetic.
So happy. Or, as in the case of bromine, so sedated. Didn't want to be sedated. Yeah.
So I'm like, you mad, bro?
Mad, bro. So now I know when you tell me that. Are you bro? Are you bromine? No, I'm not boring.
Are you a bromide?
No, I'm a sulfide.
Oh my gosh, I just want to call someone that now. Just be like, gosh, you're such a bromide. And they'd be like, what? And they'd be like, yeah.
Yeah.
Look it up.
And then it would take them forever to find it.
We both just looked at each other and said, look it up.
Same brain.
Because we're nerds.
It's true.
All right.
All right, that's about. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Before
about
this
bromine.
baby wakes up.
Yeah, he's wanting to.
Don't do it.
Okay, so iodine
Yeah.
comes from the Greek iodes,
Yes.
which is violet. It's a black, shiny, crystalline solid, purple, black, very so deep purple it's black. Solid, but what's cool is that when you heat it, it sublimes. You know what that is?
No.
So
Isn't that
sublime.
a band?
It is a band. Pretty good one. But sublime means that you go from solid to gas and you skip the liquid phase. So if you heat it up, it's just like, I'm not even being liquid,
He's like,
whatever.
next.
And it sublimes into the purple vapor.
He's like, thank you, next.
Thank you, next. Moving on. So yeah, it sublimes into this purple vapor, which is why it has the iodine violet. The iodes meaning violet.
Yeah.
It's one of the rarest elements that is needed for life because it is very important, which we'll talk about.
So important.
It's a non-metal, but it has some metal qualities. So it's kind of this weird in between.
You're a freak, iodine.
Freak iodine.
I have a personal vendetta against iodine.
Ooh, we should get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 1811, Bernard Courtois made saltpeter, which is potassium nitrate, which was used in gunpowder, so it was very popular.
So here's the thing about that. He used seaweed.
Yeah, to get the potassium.
But it's only because the Napoleon Wars were going on and there was a shortage. I guess he used to somehow use wood.
Oh yeah. They used something else and then they switched to seaweed.
Because there was a shortage, because there was a war, he moved to seaweed because he's like, well, I'm next is the ocean. And
I will try that.
Look, there's seaweed everywhere and nobody wants seaweed, so I will try seaweed.
We'll use that.
So if there wasn't a Napoleon War going on and he had to find an alternative to get the potassium to make the silver nitrate,
right.
we wouldn't have discovered iodine. Well, we would have just later.
Just later, yeah.
Someone else would have done
All right, so thanks, Napoleon.
You did something good, not bad.
Okay.
Like
Interesting.
checking your mic. Like,
No,
Emma?
making sure it's on.
Emma?
'Cause I turned it off when I was coughing.
Oh, that's
I don't
right.
have a cough button, you know. We're not that.
We are not high techie.
Yeah. So it's cool. So he added sulfuric acid to the seaweed, and they got purple fumes that condensed into crystals.
And he's like, purple haze.
Yeah.
And that's
So
where the
he
song
gave it.
comes
What's
from.
interesting, he gave it to Charles Bernard Desormes and Nicolas Clement, and they confirmed it was a new element. So then our friends that we've talked about before,
Humphrey Davy.
Joseph Gay-Lussac and Humphrey Davy, confirmed it. But Davy sent the report, and for 50 years it was thought that he was the discoverer instead of Courtois.
Yes. So he was in Paris. He was visiting because he got an award, and he just sent the report back, and
They
the
confirmed,
Royal
like, yep.
Institution was like, "Davy, you discovered this. This is
That's great."
amazing." And like,
Nobody corrected it for
Bernard,
50 years.
why weren't you like, "Oh, excuse me,
Excuse me.
that was me."
He was too busy making the gunpowder.
He's like, "I am working in a factory for Napoleon." Yeah. So, can you? I know news traveled slowly
Right,
in
back then.
1811, but
But
like,
still, 50 years, you think
50
you'd know, like, wait a
like
second.
was Bernard Courtois even alive when they finally got recognition?
I don't know. I think he didn't get any benefit out of it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but then
he's-
Davy, like, why didn't he be like, no, man, I didn't do
I
that?
know. You get back and you're like,
Because he's got plenty of other elements under his belt.
he's like, I did whatever.
Fine, I did
He
it
probably
too.
was too busy, didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
Someone's probably like, congrats on the whole iodine thing. He's
I was
like,
like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever,
Yeah, I
hell
sent
yeah.
the thing. That's
Yeah,
you're
that's great.
welcome.
Thanks.
At least I would hope. I hope he wouldn't be like, yeah, no, that was me.
That was totally me. I did all the work.
Let me get another medal.
Who knows, these crazy people.
Mm-hmm.
So the first commercial use was in photography.
In 1839.
Yes, and by Louis Daguerre. And what's cool is it was images on metal, and they were called daguerreotypes. Couldn't come up with a better name.
That's not self-absorbed at all.
No, not at all.
Look,
well,
I
it was a
invented this.
picture.
I'm calling it a gracimetron.
I would buy one of those. Crazy much. Awesome.
My one and only customer. That and my mom. Or my dad.
There you go.
My dad probably would buy it.
He would totally buy it.
Thanks, Dad.
The iodine salts are used in pharmaceuticals and disinfectants, printing, inks and dyes, catalysts, animal feed supplements, and photographic chemicals, polarizing filters for LCD displays, and of course, sterilizing and wound cleansing solutions. That's
Yeah.
one of the big ones. So, you know, I had a horse, and when you would they would have wounds, and if you get like a little scrape or something like that, you just buy like basically a bottle of iodine, squirt it on there. It was brown, not really purple.
Yeah,
but
it is more brown, and it's kind of
yeah,
liquid.
because it's I mean it's not
well,
straight
it's mixed,
iodine. It's
right.
it's mixed with something else, but it's a very good disinfectant. So you see that a lot.
And it's also used in water purification. And funny story, why I have a beef with iodine. Beef. I was thinking iron. Never mind. So I was camping. I was leading a group of students, middle school, high school students.
They let you lead?
No, I was actually the second adult. I was not the leader.
All right.
I know. I was actually at the back of the pack, making sure everyone got up the mountain.
Sure nobody fell off. Okay.
So we were using iodine tablets.
Oh.
And they give you another tablet to put in after the water purification to kind of
like
neutralize the iodine. And
did you forget to put that in there?
Well, I mean, you don't have to put it in. It just makes your water taste kind of nasty. But I was like, whatever, and I didn't put it in because we needed to get going, and I just, I knew my water had purified long enough. And then my throat started swelling. I'm allergic to iodine.
Really?
Yeah. Or at least the tablets.
Right, because I was saying with salt, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So just the more
I think
concentrated,
it's more concentrated iodine.
Wow.
Yeah, because my throat started swelling, and I was like, I'm like, this is not good. And like, I looked in a mirror, and I was like, well, yeah, there's barely a hole in my mouth. Like, it's really swelling shut. And by the time we got down the mountain and they brought me to a doctor, the doctor's like, oh, I think you're allergic to peanuts. Like the trail mix you were eating. I was like, yeah, no.
It's not that.
No, because the only new thing in my diet is these iodine tablets. So it's not like official, but I'm
pretty sure. Well,
sure.
It's not one of those things you're like, let me try it again.
Let's sample this one. So I can't use iodine tablets. And so I tell the doctors I'm allergic to iodine, although I'm not like 1,000% sure.
Right.
But pretty sure high concentrate.
Probably not a great thing for you.
Completely swell shut. So
that's good. But that's one that sometimes allergies can get worse. So the first time it happens, not so bad. The next time, boo!
Well, I mean, I'm glad it was like the last day when it happened because the whole time we were there, like my throat felt a little swollen even though I was using the neutralizing tablets. But the last day I didn't use a neutralizing tablet, and it was like I was like,
yeah,
which is ironic because iodine,
the iodine deficiency is all about the throat.
It's all about the
thyroid,
which is in your throat.
So we have the small amounts of are added to table salt to avoid the iodine deficiency, because the iodine deficiency causes goiter, which is the throat, the thyroid gland swelling.
Which is funny because it's called goiter, and like that's what they call like the turkey, like the goiter.
Oh, is that? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, a little wobble.
Yeah. Well, it was a. Yeah, I don't know. All I can think of gobbler, and it's definitely not it. But
the scientific term is gobbler.
Gobbler.
Yeah,
but they
goiter.
That iodine deficiency can also give you intellectual disabilities.
Are you looking at Crete?
And cretinism.
Yeah.
Right, which is terrible. So it's a congenital hypothyroid. So your thyroid isn't doing what it should. It's where was it? We'll go into that. But so because of that, you get severe stunted physical and mental development because the thyroid is important in a lot of that regulation.
Yeah,
but cretinism is a bad term now.
Like
they changed it to hypothyroid because.
Well. Yeah. So yeah, in the 1800s, in the Swiss Alps, there was like a lot of people that had like this deficiency. They weren't getting iodine, and English travelers wrote of the valleys of the Cretans, and it was people with goiter. And I was listening to a podcast on iodine, and the guy who did he used to go in Italy up into the mountains, and he would stay there, and he saw this old man next to this factory, and he had like big he described it something like a sack where his neck should be,
right? And
he was like, Dad, what's that? His dad, I guess, was super patient. He's like, well, that's a man with goiter, and he explained it, and it was just really interesting that it took a while. Dr.
David Marine?
No, I had Dr. I can't do French. Francois Condet. He
Okay.
found the connection between iodine and goiter, but people thought he was poisoning his patients. So he was afraid to leave his house for fear of being attacked. But
Lovely.
I think he was giving him a little too much iodine. But he was like, wait a minute, look, people next to the sea
So this is interesting
kind
because
of don't have it as much as people up in the mountains.
what I found was that David Marine in 1905 saw that connection. That he was, and this was that there was a place between the Rockies to the Great Lakes to Western New York that was called the Goiter Belt. Everybody had goiter, and so he saw the increase in goiter in people and in animals. So you see dogs with goiter and stuff too. So he was the linked it to he was the I found was that he was the one that basically linked it to that, and then. So the people by the coast, you get it enough from being near the ocean and the soil.
Yeah.
But inland is where they're getting deficient. So he's the one that I found that kind of put that connection together and started. And he did a study where he had a control group, and it was like 2,000 of each people. And so one set was given the iodine, and another set was not. And it was huge. Where like almost everybody who didn't get the iodine got goiter, or like 400 or 500 people or something, and then the other ones like 3 people got goiter. So it was definitely linked. And then the first iodized salt was sold in Michigan in 1924, and that basically eliminated goiter and iodine
Goiterism.
deficiency in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these were in different parts of the world. I'm
Right.
not sure when mine was. I tried to look for a date.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not to find it.
But what's funny is that they actually radioactive isotope of iodine is sometimes used to treat cancerous thyroid glands.
Yeah. So yes. It's used in thyroid cancer treatment because it preferentially acclimates in the thyroid.
Mm-hmm. Right, because it likes to
That's where
it goes to stay there.
Where,
Yeah.
iodine likes to go. So it's a more focused treatment.
Right.
Instead of harming the healthy tissue throughout your entire
Right,
body,
'cause it wants
can
to
be
go there
focused
anyway.
right there.
Right.
And so
Again, that kind of goes with what we were talking about before on one of the other podcasts about taking those drugs that can go straight to certain cells that.
but this is
The
primarily
nanotechnology.
better for bigger tumors and not for cluster cells. And so that's where
right.
astatine has potential, and we'll get to astatine in a little bit. But where iodine, it's great for thyroid cancer because it goes straight to the thyroid.
Right.
It likes the thyroid,
Specific.
but it's not as good at getting the little cluster
More
cells
diffuse,
of cancer.
yeah.
It's bigger for like the big tumors.
Right.
Astatine has some promising properties
Oh,
that we'll
interesting.
get to.
I'm excited about that.
I
They
only
use
have
it-
one more cultural thing. For
Okay, they have they use it for internal contrasting agents for imaging and CT scans, computed tomography, and radiography and fluoroscopy. So it's important for being able to see inside you. See inside you. So again, it's one of the rarest elements that's needed for life. It's essential for humans. You need 0.1 milligrams per day. We have about 20 milligrams in the body, mainly in the thyroid. Again,
You got to realize though that how much salt we intake, we have to have more than that.
I'm sure probably.
Dude, I'm like, this needs more salt.
Oh, it's the first thing you do when you flavor a food. Just put some salt on it. It's good.
Yummy, yummy salt.
But the thyroid is the thing that regulates growth and body temperature, which is why you get if it's hypothyroid, you have issues with growth and some development issues. But it is the least reactive of all the halogens.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
By the way, if you hear dogs barking, it's Cindy's fault.
it's they're barking at protecting the house.
They're like,
You
it's
know.
a leaf.
I don't know if they can actually hear it through the window and into these mics. I
They
don't
might
know.
not.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. So naturally abundant. It's found in the largest reservoirs in seawater as iodide. Trace amounts get taken up by seaweed, and then that's how it was obtained. You were mentioning that earlier, right? Getting the iodine from seaweed. But now the main sources are iodate minerals, which are natural brine deposits left by the evaporation of ancient seas,
Yes.
and brackish waters, right? Brackish meaning salty and fresh water mixed together,
I have
from
that.
oil and salt wells. And so they get it from They release the iodine from iodate obtained from nitrate ores, or extracting
the iodine.
iodine vapor from the processed brine. One thing that I use iodine for in my biology classes is it's a test for starch.
Yes.
So when we're looking at osmosis and showing how water molecules or small molecules will go across a membrane.
Mm-hmm.
You put starch on the inside of a bag, and then you put water with iodine on the outside, and then you see the iodine goes into the bag, and it turns the bag dark purple, black purple, indicating the starch is inside, but the starch can't go outside the bag because the molecules are too big. So you can see the water is moving into the bag, and then you can see it because it changes the color inside the bag for starch, which is pretty cool.
If you want to know your food's starchy, just splash some iodine on it. Bing! Just grab that iodine from your medicine cabinet. You know it's there.
Just saying. Seaweed, scallops, shrimp, and cod are really high in iodine. But you can get it from land plants too if they're in soils that are rich in iodine, and from dairy products and eggs if the animals have enough iodine in their diet.
It would come out in their byproducts.
And it is the leading preventable cause of mental disability in developing areas of the world, because some people don't have iodine, and they don't have salt iodine that's in salts and stuff. So in the developing areas, there's more issues with that. So it's the leading preventable cause, which I thought was very interesting. I didn't quite realize that.
Well, that's just annoying. I just want to go throw some iodized salt.
You get iodide, and you get iodide.
Everybody gets iodine. Except me, I don't want it.
Except for you, it closes up my throat.
I get enough in my diet.
And then it is a component of nuclear fallout. So you are in danger of inhaling and ingesting iodine, which is highly toxic in large doses if that occurs.
High dosages, like me.
You talk about that. I'm going to go let the dog in because I think he's barking to come inside.
Well, I'm just going to quickly talk about how she's not even here to listen. So, hey guys, it's just Grace here. This podcast has been brought to you by us and this dog. Hi, Wash. Okay, so like we talked about, it's a disinfectant. It's mentioned, it's a pretty big important part in Ernest Hemingway's The Snows of Kilimanjaro. A man dies at length on the mountainside, and it's not because of his injuries, it's because he failed to put iodine on his injured leg. So infection. The cause of death, it is made clear, is not the original accident, but the man's failure to apply treatment. It seems he subconsciously chooses death because it offers him an escape from that worst of Hemingway fates, the forming of a mature human relationship.
Whoa, that's I think maybe he just forgot.
Hemingway is
it's a bit deeper than that. Yeah.
Hey. It's also mentioned in Aldous Huxley's The Eyeless in Gaza. Quoted by the cynical adventurer Mark Straiths as saying, "No humanitarian nonsense about iodine."
Okay.
And there's a Leonard Cohen 1977 song called Iodine. It gains its sense from the womanish contrariness of the element in medicine, stinging 1 minute, soothing the next.
Okay. I would never thought there would be a song about iodine.
Oh, yeah. 1977.
They were going through some weird things then.
He was probably smoking iodine.
This is awesome. It's so stingy. It's so good.
It burns.
It burns so good.
Just like a woman. Iodine.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness.
Astatine.
So acetines. These last two are pretty.
Astatine. This will be fun.
Which is the ass.
It means unstable from the Greek astatos.
It is the rarest element on Earth. Only 25 grams of it occurred naturally.
Yes. It's in the Guinness Book of World Record for the rarest element that naturally occurs in nature.
It is dangerously radioactive.
Yes, it is.
So in 1939, two groups came near discovery, but 1940, Dale Carson and Kenneth Ross Mackenzie and Emilio Segre from the University of California shot alpha particles at bismuth 209, and they produced it. That was artificially produced.
Yes,
but they weren't able to continue because of World War II.
Yes, but fun fact. Emilio Segre.
Segre.
We're not experts here. So he was at UC Berkeley because he couldn't go back to Italy because Mussolini was anti-Semitic and was like, "You're Jewish.
No, get away.
You cannot be at the university." So he was hanging out.
So we got
him.
Hey.
And I think he even helped with the Manhattan. Yep. So World War II happened, and Segre went on to be a group leader of the Manhattan Project.
Because they didn't get to continue their work on astatine because there was the nuclear weapon focus of trying to make the bomb.
And it wasn't until after World War II that they even named it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. In 1942, Berta Karlik and Traud Bennett.
I thought you were going to be like
Traud. I can't read my handwriting. Bennett. They discovered it, and they suggested the name Vienium, but it was World War II. They didn't know what was going on, so they didn't know that in 1940 it had already been discovered.
Aww.
Yeah, so that was kind of sad for
Snooze,
them.
you lose.
Yeah. So there's no known use of it besides research. The half-life is only 8 hours of the most stable isotope.
Yes.
So it doesn't last very long. So half-life is basically how long it takes for half of the compound or element to deteriorate.
Yeah.
So
and they said if you had enough of it in solid form, which you can't, but if you did, they think it would be dark purple.
Right, and it's still the physicists infer the properties based on other halogen groups because it's not long enough to know.
We're guessing it'd be purple because all the other halogens are purple.
But the mass spectrometer confirms that it acts like other halogens, especially like iodine, from what they've seen.
Yeah.
It's no known biological role because it's toxic and radioactive. It's the least reactive and most metallic properties of the halogen group. But again, the color is still unknown, but they think it should
They're like,
be
if it could, it'd be purple?
Yeah.
Because everything else is purple?
And so, it is found in nature, but not very much. And mainly you get it by doing it artificially, but usually not in weighable amounts. Here's a few atoms.
Yay!
So they make it in nuclear reactors by the neutron bombardment of bismuth-200. So basically, bombarding other things and making it break up and turning into these other things. And so there's no danger, but as you were mentioning before, it's not dangerous. It's highly radioactive, but it's not really dangerous to people because it's so rare. Like you're not going to find it.
Right.
But the short half-life. So even if you are exposed, it goes away pretty quickly.
It's half-life too. When it breaks down, it breaks down into a more stable compound.
Right. That's what radioactivity is.
Yeah.
You're breaking down into something a little bit more stable. Yeah.
And it breaks down into something actually very, very stable, which is why they're hopeful if they can make enough of it. Because it has alpha particles versus beta particles. So
alpha decay.
Yeah,
that's what it produces.
So I think iodine is more beta. It's a beta particle, and so when they use it in cancer, that's why it can attack the big tumors, but it has a hard time going and finding the small cluster cells. But astatine,
and they think it's thought to accumulate in the thyroid like iodine.
Yeah, and so they think that if they can get enough of it, because it's an alpha particle, and they can get smaller, and it decays pretty quickly,
right.
And
it's not going to affect other things because it's going to decay pretty quickly. Yeah.
That if they can get enough of it and shoot it at cancer, the little laser, pew, 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 that it can be used for more cluster cell type cancers.
Interesting.
So it's hopeful. But they got to figure out
how to. Well, I mean, we get a lot of things where it's like, this is gonna be great if we can figure exactly how to do it.
And that's why scientists need money.
That's right. They did find that it may be important in radioimmunotherapy for cancer treatments because they've done some promising trials with bone marrow transplants in leukemia patients and stem cell transplants and chemotherapy on brain tumors because it improves the RIT, the radioimmunotherapy efficiency. It kills the cells that are resistant to the chemo and radioactive therapies.
Oh, well that's good.
So
find an alternative for what we can't. For the ones that are immune.
Exactly. So do you have something else on astatine?
That's really
pretty much. It's like it's
it's
terrible. It's radioactive, but could be helpful in.
And it doesn't
medicine.
really exist.
Yeah, barely. And something that really doesn't exist, tennessine. So in 2010, the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna, Russia, the Lawrence Livermore National Lab in California, and the Oak Ridge National Lab in Tennessee discovered it, made it. They bombard berkelium with ions of calcium, and you end up with this tennessine. But it's highly reactive metal. Only a few atoms have ever been made, like atoms, like just one or two. And what's interesting is it was confirmed in 2015. So they found it in 2010, confirmed in 2015.
On April 5th of 2010.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Previously, it was called unseptium, which is a placeholder name meaning 1 in 7 in Latin. So they put that in there until they finally decide to name it. So it didn't even get named until November of 2016.
I actually have a picture of a periodic table with
with unobseptium.
Yeah,
I know. Which is
like a whole row of them.
Because I didn't actually know about this one. I was like, wait a minute. When I heard the unobseptium, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know that one. And I hadn't heard of Tennessee. Well, that's because only 3 years ago was it named Tennessee. Right. So they put placeholders when they find something until they get, because it goes through a lot of people to decide who gets the name. So the international.
Back in the day, they're just like.
I'll name it. It's made.
I'm the first one that said it.
The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry approved the name Tennessine in 2016.
And that's after the state of Tennessee.
Right, because of that. Yeah. No, we didn't, but that was one of them. And then there's another one that was similar. I think the same guys found it, and that one's called Moscovium because for Russia.
Moscovium.
But so talking about the half-life is of the two most stable isotopes is 80 milliseconds. So it's literally like, it's there, it's gone. It's there, it's gone. So it's really hard to capture.
Yeah. The only thing I have on it is at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, it's a solid.
Well, did you find it? Because mine just said it's expected to be solid, but it's unknown.
Well, I have melting point unknown, boiling point unknown, percentage anywhere none, uses only in research. It's like the tiniest little.
Just like, and by the way,
astatine has actually not very much in this book. I have another book that I use. It's a book for children, but
very cool.
Shut up, it's really amazing. Called Periodic Table: The Definitive Visual Catalog of the Building Blocks of the Universe. Featuring
did they say themselves that it's the definitive? Because I think it's always kind of funny. Like, this is the definitive work because I said so.
That's what it says.
I know, but did they say that it's definitive, or did everybody else say it's definitive? Because it's two different things.
I'm pretty sure they just say what they want.
I'm just saying.
I don't know why they're using the word definitive for a children's book anyway. But if you want to know a little bit about chemicals, but like
and pretty pictures,
and the pictures are beautiful in this thing. But like don't want to be overwhelmed. Like if our podcast overwhelms you, you should get this book because then it just has like the most. It has like 2 pages on an element and half of it's big pretty pictures in color.
It's pretty pretty. I'm kind of jealous of it whenever she brings it out.
You should be. Maybe for your birthday you'll get it.
Ooh, yay!
Oh. But then I won't have all my extra notes from there.
I just won't look at it for the podcast. It's fine.
That's what I use a lot of these books for. It's fun. So that's it.
That's the halogens. Yeah, all the way down the periodic table there.
Fare thee well, halogens.
It was good. Go produce salts.
Yes. Don't kill people.
Well, it's so funny. It's that balance of like, don't kill people. You're highly toxic, but you can save people if used correctly.
I feel like people are like that.
That's very true.
You're terrible, but you could be good.
Just a little bit right there.
We just got to manipulate you in the right
way. Just steer you that way. Be good. Thank you.
So,
all right.
Any shameless plugs you want to do?
You can see me at Pacific Mammal Research, and
you can actually see her.
Yeah, you can actually see me. I post pictures of myself sometimes. And marine mammals on Instagram and Facebook, and www.pacmam.org. PACMAM. What about you?
Well, you can follow my life, which is not that exciting, but you can, at Run Mama Run 50 by 50 on Instagram. That's 50x50. I'm going to be back into running, so my actual name will make sense, and it won't just be me posting pictures of holding coffee cups.
Maybe we'll actually get to run together again someday.
Someday. Oh my gosh.
It's been so long.
I know. Well, we could do a weekend sometime soon.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're not on your... It's exciting that you're going to go
on Alaska cruise.
Go on a cruise.
I'm excited.
That's really
exciting. Get some cool pictures from there.
I'm not going anywhere because I have a newborn.
Yeah.
He's right here next to us.
Cute. Still sleeping.
Oh, yeah? He slept through this whole podcast.
He did.
He's adorable.
And he's a great sleeper during the day.
Did I tell you that... No, during the day. Did I tell you that someone gave me a inorganic chemistry for babies book?
That's awesome.
Maybe we'll put on YouTube a video of me reading it.
That would be fantastic. We should do that. We're doing this little video there.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
We should do that.
Or we can do the podcast. You can even just read it.
Right, but I could like show the pictures because otherwise it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because like this is a ball, it's attached to another. Like it's an atom.
Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's not as.
No, that's a good idea. Visual, have a little video.
Just for fun.
I like it.
For funsies. That might be a project we do coming up.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
All right.
Charlie will have to let me borrow his book.
Well, he doesn't know how to not share yet, so
Yeah,
it's the
he
time to
doesn't
do it.
even know how to lift his head. So
Yeah, that's true.
actually, he does. He's such a strong boy. So, anyways,
All right.
feel free to like, subscribe, have any questions, elementalfunpodcast@gmail.com. Please leave a review. I think I'm the only one that's
Oh, I reviewed it. Oh, I
reviewed it. So, I'm like,
It's awesome.
5 stars. So that we know you're there and that you're listening. So thank you so much for listening. We're going to let you go now because it's been almost 50 minutes.
Oh, 10 seconds. All right.
We won't be seeing you.
No.
You won't be seeing
we'll
us.
Talk to you later.
We'll talk at you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Phone.
Benjamin's making funny noises today, or funny voices. So that's what I was going for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were just trying to be E.T.
Well, that too.
Oh.
Phone home. Give me some bromine.